Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Rajiv Jain from Jivaji University, Gwalior. Today we are going to discuss a module, Chromatographic Techniques 3, under the paper Fundamentals of Analytical Chemistry. Today's learning objectives are, which we shall study here in this module, will be paper chromatography and thin layer chromatography. How paper chromatography was developed. It was somewhat different from column chromatography, although the principle involved is the same, almost the same, but how it was developed. In ancient times, Roman used to separate different dyes and pigments by placing a mixture on a piece of paper or cloth, and that by placing another water or something else, it is spread in a concentric way and different types of color get separated. From that, it was clue was taken and it was paper chromatography was developed by putting a spot of the mixture at the one end of the paper, then developing it in a chamber and then observing the movement of the mobile phase. As in other chromatographic techniques, in paper chromatography and thin layer chromatography also there are two phases. One phase is, as you know always, it is the stationary phase. Stationary phase may be solid or liquid. In case of paper and thin layer chromatography, in both cases, the stationary phase is a liquid held on a solid surface. And mobile phase is liquid, and by different permutation combinations, we obtain a system where maximum resolution can take place and mixture can be separated into different components. Here, if we take the equation, then a partition coefficient and diffusion coefficient is based upon the concentration of the solute in the stationary phase and concentration of the solute in the mobile phase, and their separation is dependent on the partition or distribution coefficient. And in both the cases, in paper chromatography, we usually take chromatographic paper, whereas in case of thin layer chromatography, we take a glass plate or plastic plate coated by different types of support. It may be silica gel or it may be alumina, and on that water vapors are held which function as the mobile phase. In case of paper, it is the cellulose fibers on which water vapors are held tightly, which works as the stationary phase. And then both the plates or paper are put in the jar, and then it was developed by using mobile phase. First chromatography we shall study in detail is paper chromatography. Before studying the paper chromatography, we shall study what is the nature of the paper, why it can be used for separation of different type of substances. The paper commonly used consists of highly purified cellulose. The polymeric cellulose structure contains several thousand anhydroglucose units linked through oxygen atoms. Theoretically, there are three hydroxyl groups on each glucose unit, but many of these have been partially oxidized during manufacture to aldehyde, ketone, or carboxyl functional groups. In addition to these variations, the paper will contain traces of many impurities, including inorganic substances held as exchangeable cations on the hydroxyl group, adsorbed salts, or mineral matter left on the paper during processing. Cellulose has a great affinity for water and other polar solvents and holds them tenaciously through the formation of hydrogen bonds. These solvents penetrate the fibers and cause the paper to swell, changing its dimensions. In water, the cellulose is highly polar and becomes electronegative. This effect is decreased in solvents of lower dielectric constant or with increasing salt concentrations. The paper exhibits weak ion exchange properties as well as adsorptive properties. Furthermore, it is a mild reducing agent and on prolonged contact, it will react with many oxidizing agents. Most of the properties just described vary from paper to paper, even within the same lot. Acid washing, rinsing, and drying help obtaining reproducible behavior, but at best, variation in RF values can be expected. Modified forms of paper are now available in which the paper has been impregnated with alumina, silica gel, ion exchange resins, etc. While these modifications lead to different mechanisms for the separation, the technique is the same. The apparatus required for paper chromatography consists of a support for the paper, a solvent trough, and an airtight chamber in which to develop the chromatogram. The closed chamber is necessary to prevent the evaporation of the volatile solvent from the large exposed area of the paper. The size of the chamber may vary from an ordinary test tube to a large aquarium depending on the size of the paper. If a great deal of paper chromatography is to be done, it may be simpler to control the temperature of the entire room, say to 18 degrees centigrade or so. The basic components of the apparatus is shown in figure 1, which are sufficient for simple paper chromatography, but a number of modifications are now available for convenience or for several or for special methods of development to be described below. The sample is applied prior to dipping into the eluting solvent as a small spot with any device that will transfer a small volume, that is a toothpick, loop of platinum wire, capillary tube, micropipette, etc. For some methods, the sample may be applied in a narrow line perpendicular to the flow of solvent. If the sample is applied as a solution, its solvent should be evaporated before proceeding. The method of detection commonly used are inherent visible colors of the component, reactions with color producing reagents, ultraviolet absorbance, infrared absorbance, fluorescence, radioactivity, bioautography, or extraction and further chemical or physical tests. Test reagents are easily applied for spraying, immersing, or by exposing to vapor. For example, a ninhydrin reagent sprayed on the paper reacts with amines and amino acids to form a blue or purple color. Bioautography involves placing the paper in contact with a culture medium for a period of time, followed by examination of the relative growth rates of bacteria along the paper strip. Sample compounds may have either a positive or negative effect on the growth rate of the bacteria in the culture medium. After spotting the paper with the substance to be separated, with a mixture of substance to be separated, now the next step is the development. For all types of development, the paper should be equilibrated with solvent vapors in the chamber before development is begun. Development is of two types: ascending development, descending development, as you can see in the figure. This is the ascending development is the simplest and most popular. The paper is suspended vertically with about an inch immersed in the solvent and the sample spot initially located about an inch above the surface of the solvent to prevent diffusion of the sample downwards into the solvent reservoir. The solvent ascends through the paper by capillary action. The rate of ascent is slow and decreases with time because of gravity. However, The slow rate enhances the possibility of achieving partition equilibrium and often results in compact, sharply defined spots. Another type of development is through descending development. With the solvent through it at the top of the chamber, the direction of flow is downward. To prevent rapid siphoning, the paper is folded into a U shape with a short initial rise from the solvent tank. Although the apparatus is somewhat more elaborate, the method is much faster than the ascending one. Longer pieces of paper may be used, and large amounts of solvent can be used if necessary for slow moving spots. Next type of development is two-dimensional development. In all previously discussed methods of chromatography, the eluting solvent could flow in one direction only through the column or across the paper. On a plane surface, such as a piece of paper, it is possible to carry out a sequential development in two directions. The sample is applied as a spot close to a corner. This is developed in the normal fashion by ascending or descending procedure until the fastest moving spot approaches the end of the paper. Then the paper is removed, and after evaporating the solvent, it is turned 90 degree and developed a second time with another solvent having different eluting properties. In this manner, sample which could be only partially separated with either solvent alone may be completely separated by the combination of solvents as shown in figure 3. Another type of possible development is radial development. In this method, the sample is spotted at the center of a horizontally placed disc of paper with a wick to supply solvent to the center from a supply through below. The components move outward along radial paths, forming circles of increasing diameter. The bends are more or less self-sharpening because the solvent moves the trailing edge faster than the leading edge. A covered petri dish is an adequate container, or the paper can be sandwiched between two glass plates with a hole in the center of the upper one for the introduction of solvent. For fast development, one can rotate this disc at high speed so that the solvent flows by centrifugal force as well as by capillary action. Choice of solvent system. The important thing is here how to select the solvent system to be used for separating the component or for development. The more polar phase, usually water, is preferentially absorbed by the paper and is held stationary, while the less polar phase flows over it. In some cases, it may be desirable to remove the water from the paper in a preliminary drying operation and use an alcohol, glycol, formamide, or other polar solvent as a stationary phase. If water is used as a stationary phase, it is not necessary that the mobile solvent be immiscible because the water phase is so tenuously held by the paper. The aqueous phase may, of course, be buffered if desired. The mobile phase may be a mixture of solvents, for example, alcohols, acids, ketones, esters, amines, phenols, hydrocarbons, etc., selected so as to achieve maximum separation of the sample components. In addition to optimum separation, there are other factors to be considered in choosing a solvent system. The more components a solvent system contains, the more difficult it will be to maintain a saturated atmosphere in the chamber. Partial evaporation, which changes the composition of the solvent, will affect the RF value. Likewise, temperature change will be more critical in a mixed system. The solvent system must not interfere with the detection procedure and completely vaporizable so that it can be eliminated before detection. Another very important consideration, which is easily overlooked, is that minute, non-volatile impurities in the developing system can be easily confused with traces in the sample or may interfere in the detection method, so that a very pure solvent should be used. Ideally, one should choose solvent system such that the two phases are immiscible and in which the sample components have a high but different solubility in two phases. This situation will lead to maximum separation with a minimum of spreading in the shortest time. Reverse phase chromatography. If the paper is coated with a hydrophobic substance such as rubber, latex, mineral oil, or silicone oil, and a polar phase used to elute, a reversal of the normal distribution is obtained. Such systems may be advantageous for the separation of fatty acids and non-polar compounds which may move too fast because of low solubility with a polar stationary. Students, after appreciating the technique and principle of paper chromatography, you should also know applications of paper chromatography where it can be used because the technique is very simple, very easy, and can be carried out in a very short period of time. So it has a large number of applications. One of the basic applications it has is the testing the purity of the testing the purity of the synthesized compound. The synthesized compound may be organic compounds, inorganic complex, to find out whether this compound contains impurities or not. Also, to find out whether the mixture contains two substances, three substances, or four substances, all can be find out by that purpose. And it is extensively used. Even small slides of biology, which is used for spotting purposes or different purposes, small slides. They are used for testing the routine purity of the substance, maybe organic substance, maybe biochemical material, and it can be done in a very short period of time. The testing of purity. In any mixture, in any type of synthesized compound, this is the best method. Earlier, in by conventional method, it is used to be very difficult time by using classical things. But by paper chromatography, it has become very simple that we take a piece of paper, usually chromatographic Wartman paper or any type of paper. We may take chromatographic paper, we put it in a jar, we develop it, and if it contains more than one spot, if we find that on development spots are more than one, then we can safely say that it contains some impurities are present there. That impurities can be removed, then again we may run the again paper chromatogram developed, and we may find out unless it is a purest possible compound. But one of the limitations of paper chromatography is that we develop the spot. There are diffusions are there. There are the merging of two or three spots may be there. The spots which have closer partition coefficient may not be separated differently. Tailing may be there. Tailing may superimpose with each other. So for and also it cannot be used for quantitative purposes. When we want to separate the substance, we want to obtain the substances separately from a mixture. That is very difficult by paper chromatography. For that purpose, we take thin layer chromatography. In thin layer chromatography, we may take a thick layer of the adsorbent, and on that bands will appear in the form of pure substance from the mixture that can be scratched out, and by putting in a proper solvent we can recover the substance. So thin layer chromatography can be used for qualitative purposes as well as for quantitative purposes. Nowadays we have available in market commercially already prepared plates. It may be on sheet of aluminum foil or it may be on tin sheets coated with different types of adsorbent. So that plates can be successfully used in very less time for qualitative as well as quantitative purposes. And here also the parameter is RF. Uh, RF parameter is qualitative parameter by which we can find out the unknown substance qualitative. Next type of simple chromatographic technique is thin layer chromatography. Here, the operations performed are essentially the same as in paper chromatography, and most of the previous discussions applies to this remarkable simple form of chromatography as well. Instead of a piece of paper, a thin layer of finely divided adsorbent supported on a glass or plastic plate is used. The most commonly used adsorbents are silica gel, alumina, diatomaceous earth, and powder cellulose, but other materials such as Cifidex, ion exchange resins, or inorganics have been used for special purposes. Silica gel is acidic and has a high capacity. It is useful for both adsorption and partition chromatography. Alumina is basic and used primarily for adsorption. Diatomaceous earth is nearly neutral and is used as a support for partition phenomena. Any of these materials can be used in pure form, but it is more convenient to combine them with a binder, adhesive, or binder such as plaster of Paris to make a more cohesive layer. Preparation of layer. How to coat a layer on the plate. The glass plate is usually flat and smooth, or occasionally lightly ground or ridged. The size and shape may be dictated by the apparatus to be used. Microscope slides are inexpensive, readily available, and adequate for small scale work. In any event, the glass surface must be cleaned with a detergent and an organic solvent to remove any grease. The thickness of the layer will determine the capacity of the system. Layers of 0.15 to 2 mm thickness are satisfactory. The primary concern is to obtain a layer of uniform thickness. Most thin layers are produced by spreading a film of an aqueous slurry of the adsorbent over the entire surface. The slurry must be neither too thick nor too thin, or it will not spread properly. Silica gel G, which contains 10 to 15% calcinide calcium sulfate mixed with about twice its weight of water, makes a very satisfactory slurry. In commercial spreading machines, a slotted trough travels over the glass and deposits a uniform layer. Alternatively, we can apply tape along with opposite edges of the glass and use a glass rod for trowel, producing a layer the thickness of the tape. For occasional use, a pair of microscope or lantern slide can be dipped back to back into a non-aqueous slurry containing 35 grams silica gel G in 100 ml of chloroform, raised slowly and allowed to drain and dry. After spreading, the binder requires about 30 minutes to set. For adsorption chromatography, the layer is activated by heating at 110 degrees centigrade for several hours. For partition chromatography, no drying is required and the residual water acts as stationary phase. The edges should be cleaned and plates stored in a desiccator or an appropriate cabinet. It must be noted that an activated plate will absorb water, vapor, and other vapors from the air, making drastic changes in its chromatographic behavior. Pre-coated TLC plates are available from many laboratory supply firms. For occasional use, they are much more convenient and probably more reproducible than the homemade variety. Methods of development and detection. The choice of solvent depends on the same factors as already discussed in other forms of liquid chromatography, and the methods of elution are much the same as for paper chromatography. The procedure must, of course, be conducted in a closed chamber to prevent evaporation of the solvent. In order to detect the spots, iodine vapor is used extensively as a universal reagent for organic compounds. The iodine spot disappears rapidly but can be made more permanent by spraying with a 0.5% benzidine solution in absolute ethanol. Another common detecting reagent is a spray of sulfuric acid, which, upon warming, chars the sample components, leaving black spots. There are a host of more specific reagents available, and of course, the spot can be scraped off, eluted, and investigated by any available method. Advantages and applications. Compared to paper chromatography, thin layer chromatography is more versatile, faster, and more reproducible. It is often used as a pilot technique for quick look at the complexity of a mixture or as an aid in establishing the best conditions for large scale column chromatography. Because of its speed and simplicity, it is often used to follow the course of reactions or to monitor more elaborate and complex separation techniques. Thin layer chromatograms often serve to identify drugs, plant extracts, and biochemical preparations or to detect contaminants or additives. In this module, students, we have learned how by paper chromatography and thin layer chromatography we can separate the constituents of a mixture by involving the principle of partition. And principle of partition is the same as you have studied in the case of fractional distillation. Fractional distillation, it is almost the same. Important thing is that colored substances, mixture of colored substances, you can easily separate and you can easily visualize in paper as well as in thin layer chromatography. But in case of colorless substances, you have to use some complex reagent, such as in the case of separation of amino acids, you have to use ninhydrin. By spraying a solution of ninhydrin and then heating, you may obtain a pink or violet color by which you can identify the substances. For organic substances, you may put the separated, developed chromatogram of paper or thin layer uh, in a chamber containing iodine, or you can put ultraviolet radiations on that, it may fluoresce as violet color. So by using different types of visualization techniques, different colorless substances can also be separated by paper chromatography as well as by thin layer chromatography. Usually these days, paper chromatography has been replaced by thin layer chromatography because in thin layer chromatography, separations are sharper, they are sharper and also it can be used for quantitative purposes. And I am emphasizing again and again, the principle is the same. That principle involves partition. What is the stationary phase here? Stationary phase is not silica gel, but stationary phase is the water vapors held on the silica gel. And mobile phase is also liquid which you have taken in the system. It may be a single mobile phase or it may be a combination of different solvents mobile phase system. Or by partitioning between them, by equilibrating and then partitioning, you on the basis of their partition coefficient, separation takes place, and you may find spots at different places. By measuring the RF value, you can identify the unknown compounds as well as you can use it for separation. So it is a separation technique as well as technique for identification of unknown substances, as well as we can, by using thin layer chromatography, we can quantitatively obtain the substances from a mixture and in hand, and it is the ultra pure substance which we obtain after separation from thin layer chromatography. Thank you.